for the fathers, how do you show up?
So not only is there no manual to parenting, a lot of us don't have a blueprint.
We grow up hearing it takes a village to raise a child. But once you are finally out of that child phase, you need your own village.
Do you have the safe space?
Yeah, I feel like over time it took a lot of work and effort to learn how to cultivate like safe spaces. I can create my own anxiety from just overthinking, and it helped me rationalize a little bit better in my own mind, like, hey, don't sweat the small stuff.
But fellowship is like that deep, intimate conversation. It's communication, and outside of the communication, it's embracing.
I need some friends or some family to tell me, hey, listen, you're going to get through this. You're going to get through this hurt, this pain, this void, because even though they say time heals all wounds, it doesn't heal this wound.
If you're asking that question, then that means you're right there on the precipice, right there on the edge of wanting to go over into a new version of yourself.
But yeah, being present is another expectation that, men have to carry and uphold to. But
just to add something real quick, my dad passed on the 18th. Every day after that felt like the 19th for like the next 3 months, right? It always felt like the day after.
I think this is majority of the brothers that are out there. Our weakness is our pride. And that's what gets us into trouble. That's what
I just couldn't do it. I just kept trying. And when you say that, it's because I got down on my knees that day. And I cried to the Lord. That was nobody but God, because there was nobody else there for me. That's how I know that sometimes we think that God's not there, and He's always there.
We are like nurturers.
Yes.
But sometimes that nurturing doesn't extend to self. Just remember, anything you do in access usually becomes toxic. You can take your authority back. You are no longer the victim. You are a survivor. You do have a voice. Let's figure out what that voice is, and let's figure out what that voice wants to say.
If you have experienced trauma and neglect and misuse, abuse, I want you to know that there is something on the other side of that.
Hello. Welcome back. Thank you guys for showing up, whether you were watching this live or you were watching the replay. Thank you for being here. We are 6 episodes in, this being number 6, and I'm so excited to have the person with me. And of course, I'm going to get to the introductions, but I definitely have to say thank you guys for rocking with me. We've been doing this for a while, and sometimes it gets easier. Sometimes you get nervous because you never know who's going to see this and what's going to happen. But thank you guys for coming in. I hope that you share this, you get something from it. But nonetheless, let me introduce this person, okay? I have known her for, when did I graduate? 2012? Yeah. Somewhere around there. She was a former teammate of mine who killed my record. You hear me? 3 days being on the team. Homegirl said, Jermaine, your distance, that's cute, but let me show you how it's done. Killed my record, but nonetheless, I am just like amazed, first of all, by her athletic abilities, which is why this episode is called Heart of a Champion, because she's a champion, as I just said. Killed my record. To this day, she's number 1, I'm number 3. Besides the point. She is an entrepreneur. She's doing her own thing. She is trusting the Lord with whatever it is that He has for her moving forward. And I am honored and blessed to be able to have this conversation with her. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Jessica.
Hey, what's going on? It is a pleasure, and I am so honored, and I feel so blessed just to be just have the opportunity to be here. I'm looking forward to our conversation and the gems that are going to be dropped tonight. Yes, and I'm definitely excited. I'm excited.
Me too. So like, the obviously this is a mental health discussion,
Right.
but I think nonetheless this one particularly is really about like how do I just navigate life, right?
Right.
Because um life is hard and whether people realize it or not, there's so many disciplines we have just to do like basic habits basic
Right.
habits. And so, like you came to mind because I know for me, I draw a lot from my athletic days. And
Yeah.
I'm like, the things that I've learned for basketball, volleyball, and track, it's like I can apply that in life, right? Because
Right.
listen, sometimes in life you gotta pull from anything. Like you just gotta be like, someone give me something. I need
Right.
something. And then, we find the Lord and then we start walking with him. But as for you, like let's start there. Like, can we talk about your athletic journey since I already brought it up? Because
Yeah.
killing
Yeah.
rappers and whatnot. Let the people know about
Yeah. Okay.
your
Okay.
amazingness.
Yes. So we met at UMass Dartmouth over 10 years ago. Um, when I got into track and field, this was back in high school. I was more into like basketball, and um, this was probably like my junior year. I got introduced to track and field. Before
Mhm.
that, I got expelled from school, believe it or not, right.
Oh.
So yeah, so definitely the sport, the athleticism is what kept me going back then.
Mm.
um and so this was sophomore year. I left school. I got expelled, and they wanted me to go to alternative school. And I saw what the alternative school was like. It was just a bunch of misguided kids all together in one room, just misguiding one another. And I told myself,
Mhm.
no, I'd rather sit out a year and go back versus going to alternative school, because I saw a lot of kids is, so they'll try to just push you to go to the alternative school, and then you just get stuck there. And I did not want to become that. I didn't want to be another lost cause, right? So, and I'm not putting alternative school down. There's people that came out of there that did great things, but at that time, being 16, 17, that age it's so easy to be influenced. And I did know who I was to a certain extent, but I know it there was a lot of vulnerability there. So I chose to sit
Mhm.
out a year, and I went back. It was a blessing in disguise. I loved, one of my favorite things to say is, what the enemy meant for evil, God turned it into good. And so that year that I took off, I stayed home, and I was actually, believe it or not, I had to stay in the house, and that was God's way of protecting me, being able to see that. And so that year I sat out and back, and got to the field. And they would always talk. I was like, shot put, I don't know what that is, and I just wasn't a fan of it. And I said that, and I was like, oh, okay. Having the support system from my coaches, and them pushing me. So I was like, all right, I could actually do something with this. I could go somewhere with it. And just getting the recognition, I loved it. So I was like, okay, this is my thing now. And so it was junior and senior year. It was God was just accelerating with me with the shot put. I think I was state champion. Um, and then New England champion. This was back in 2010. And then I ended up choosing going to UMass Dartmouth. And that's where I met you and all our great coaches. And um, school at that time, even before that, I was the first one in my family to go to college. So
Mm.
everything was new. Like when I chose to go to UMass Dartmouth, I didn't even see the campus. I didn't tour it or nothing because I didn't have the ability to. All I knew, what kind of pushed me into going there, was I knew that there was a bus I would be able to take from Boston to get on campus, the DACO bus. So I was like, all right, I know I'll be able to be close to home and to be able to like help family out and stuff. So I was like, all right, I chose this school, and I went to my start miss, and I loved it. I thank God for the experience there. All the great people meeting you and Rob and everyone. And again, God is so intentional because He knew what He was doing back then. Here we are, how many years? 13 years later, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So thank God for that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So the sports, it definitely it 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 set a foundation for me. It kind of it makes you disciplined. It makes you disciplined in a sense where, okay, you can't, being in school, there's a lot of downtime. You have a lot of free time if you're not in classes. But when you're playing a sport, it's okay. If your grades, you ain't keeping up with your grades, you can't. How did it go? Like if your grades are slipping, you had to sit out. You can't
Mhm.
can't go to no meets, no nothing. So
Right.
that part, you have to keep up with your grades, your studies. I think we even had like a study hall at one point. Um, and so we was on a schedule, 3:30 at practice, you on the field, and it's a bad look if you showing up late. And then after practice, I even like, you form a connection and a group of your friends. And I even got introduced to eating healthier because I knew what it was like to eat bad the night before a meet, and then the next day you'll feel sluggish and you don't perform as well. So in
Yeah.
that sense too, the discipline came into part, and um, the reward of pushing yourself. Just when you think like you reached your capacity, you reached your limit, and here you go, you break your own personal record, whether it be by a centimeter or an inch. it's
Mhm.
it's it's a great feeling to know that the hard work has paid off, and just being disciplined, setting that time up to go to the gym and actually making a plan and following through with it. So back then, I was introduced to a lot of those skills I still apply to my life today, where even now, having a schedule with going to the gym, things of that nature, or just even with life. I remember there was a lot of pressure there was I guess it was like the athletic pressure where with shot put, it was like, who is who in the field events, right? And so I remember I had like an arch nemesis. She was a year ahead of me, and she was really good. She went to Tufts University, and is that a D3 school? I can't remember. She was
Mhm.
just really good at shot put, and so
Yeah.
every time I saw her, I was like, "Oh man, here we go. She about to blow me out the wind," and and I would just feel defeated without even
Mhm.
throwing the shot put yet. And every now and again, I would sit back and think like, "Damn, Jess, if I had the mind I have now, if I had it back then, I would have been killing it because a lot of it, it's like in the mind, and I psyched myself out a lot, and I thank God I did do well. But I feel like I could have done better. Yeah,
Mhm. Mm.
yeah,
You're saying a lot of good stuff. Like the fact that sports is what kind of kept you interested in school, or
mm-hmm.
at least kept you in school, is a huge
Right,
part. There's a lot of,
right,
like, because I work with teenagers, I tell them all the time, like, you think staying motivated in high school is hard. Wait till you get to college where
right,
they're not like knocking on your door like, hello, what do you do?
right,
You don't have parents that are like, well, most of us don't have parents that are like, get your tail in those classes and do what you
right.
have to do. And it's like, there's all of this discipline that you have to have in order
Yeah,
to stay with it and to get the degree. And then after, you get yourself in there, and then it's like, what am I supposed to do with all of this free time?
yeah,
Like, I don't know what to do with all of it. But the discipline and the fact that you learn how to get yourself to perform at your best by changing your eating habits, and maybe you're not going out and going crazy the night before you
exactly.
track meet. Like, I have to get myself together, and it's like that doesn't just stop after you graduate. Like, there's
Right,
so many skill sets that you can take and say, like, yeah, I know what it's like to make these necessary sacrifices to make life work. Like,
yeah,
a lot of people are like, Jermaine, how do you do it? You work like two jobs and you're part of this and you're doing this, and then in church you have this. It's like, I don't know, because I've never had those times where I wasn't constantly doing something. It was like school track or school and volleyball, and then school, church, whatever. It's like there's always
Right.
something. So it's like I don't know what to do with downtime.
Yeah.
No,
What
now
is that? You don't know what that is.
I know now because I'm like, we need it because I will burn out
Right.
from both sides of the rope if I don't learn how to get it together.
Right.
So culturally,
Yeah.
given the fact that you are a Haitian American,
Whoop, 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 whoop.
is mental health something that's talked about in your community and your
Yeah.
family? Is that a thing?
No, ma'am, not a thing.
Mm,
Even for me growing up, it took some time to realize that my mom, she never showed like weakness. So growing up in my household, weakness, it was frowned upon. Even in my neighborhood, if you showed emotion, it was considered a sign of weakness. So even in my household, I never saw my mother cry. Um, Even if she was to cry, it was probably behind the doors, and it wasn't until I was incarcerated, and this was like 5 years ago, that I heard my mother say "I love you," and it stuck out to me. I was like, wow, and you don't realize it until it's said. But my mother, she never said it, but she showed it.
mhm,
She showed her love through food. So we never went to bed hungry. She always provided the best way she could at the time,
yeah.
and she always, one thing about her, she always, it's her prayers. I'm very thankful. Her prayers till this day I am covered by, and her interceding on my behalf, and I'll take that over anything any day.
Mhm,
So yeah, as far as mental health goes, it's not a thing. In the Haitian culture, we tend to associate, like, um, if it's like depression, it's always something like, oh, they're doing voodoo on them, or it's the attack of the enemy. But in reality, it's like depression is real, anxiety is real. Um, but it's not talked about, again, because in Haiti, the culture is, it's, you're just trying to survive, so because you have this mentality, you're in survival mode. You really don't have the time to stop and think, or reflect on your emotions, or reflect on what's really going on, because you're just trying to make sure, especially with the condition Haiti is in right now, is that you survive to see another day, that
mhm.
you're able to find a meal for the day. And I, things like that, it's humbling to be able to say, like, we're over here, we're complaining, while there's literally people dying, getting kidnapped in Haiti this second. And it's a lot of trauma. And as older as I got, I realized that my mom had a lot of childhood trauma, or from the things she's seen and heard, because I have tons of family still back in Haiti. And growing up, I remember the phone calls she would get, of like, oh, this is what's going on. Like back in the early 90s, um, there was a president. His name was Aristide, and there was like a lot of political war. A lot what's going on now, but not as bad back then. And there was a lot of political unrest and a lot of revolting, and so that, I can sympathize with my mom, where being here in America, there's only so much you can do, and it's a risk if you say, okay, I want to go back and help family, but you're putting yourself at a risk, because then you're subject to getting like kidnapped or harmed or things of that nature. So again, here we are, like 20 years later, and even 20 years later after the earthquake, um, there's a lot of still the unrest that's going on. So it's it's very sad, and you feel helpless in a sense, because
Mhm.
there's only so much you can do, and the most you could do is just send money and hope that something gotta give, and I
Yeah,
always tell myself it gotta get bad before it get good. um
yeah,
and so if this is the rock bottom that we gotta hit to bounce back, so be it, right? Because Haiti ain't new to this, right? We true to this, unfortunately, but
yeah.
yeah, yeah. on our flag it says, with union there's force. So if this is what the country needs to come together, because so be it. Because now more than ever, I feel like there's something being stirred in the atmosphere where a lot of stuff that light wasn't shed on is being shed on. There's countries in the UN like Kenya that are stepping up to assist, and I'm very thankful for that. And I feel like if that's what had to happen in order for there to be um, unification, in order for there to be rest in the country, so be it. Because along Haiti, to be the first Black independent country and to be in the state that we are today, it's definitely sad. It's definitely sad, but I'm hopeful. We're gonna come out. We're gonna come out of this.
Listen, it is now. I'm. I used to say in high school I'm Haitian by association, just
Okay.
because of just because of
What
like
school did you go to?
Brockton High.
Brockton High. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. They was everywhere, you know. And I used to hear a lot of the stories about, Haiti, and the pride that you guys have is absolutely beautiful. We love that because there are some other, cultures that they're like, no, yeah, I like it. That's nice. But like y'all be rocking. Like
Hey.
right, like you said, like y'all ain't new to this, y'all are true to this. And to see the tragedies and to hear about it, obviously to hear about it, it's painful to hear, but when you are strongly connected to Haiti and when you have family members that are in Haiti, like that's a whole different type of like trauma. And then it's like you want to help, but it's like what help can we give? Because like the part that you said, I've never heard anyone say that before, but to go back means you're putting yourself in danger. It means that like there are fears that you have, and you're like, I want to help, I want to be there, I want to help build something. But it's like, in order to do that, I have to think and ask myself, like, will I survive?
Cost, right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then like the survival mode, listen, I can talk about survival mode for hours, because it's something that a lot of people in my line of work, they're so used to it. It's like
Right.
they don't realize survival mode is supposed to be temporary. That thing is supposed to
Right.
help you in a time of crisis. Like if you're in a car accident and you have family in your car, you're in survival mode. Like instinct takes over. You guys survive that thing, but at some point you're supposed to kick out of it. And the hardest part is that people don't kick out. They stay in it, and then they don't excuse me, they don't realize that your system is being depleted the more it goes along at every second. And like you're always on edge, you're always irritable, your body is tense because you're like, I gotta survive, I gotta survive. And it's like, when do you go from, maybe this is a question for you, because like I said, I can talk about it all day. When do you go from surviving, the need to survive, to actually like living with intention and like doing life a little differently, like knowing how to do life better?
Yes, I think once you get to experience it, I think, and knowing what it looks like. For me, I remember being in survival mode where I was just like, okay, I gotta work, 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 make ends meet, and that was normal to me because I saw my mother do it for so long. So that's what I knew until I got around friends, and I was in relationships where I you kind of get forced in a sense where it's like, okay, you can rest. You don't have to worry about tomorrow. And
Mhm.
I think definitely with having the Christian foundation where you learn to put your trust in God for sure, and lean not on your own understanding. So every time I find myself tripping and getting into that survival mode, I'm like, okay, Jesus, take the wheel. Okay, this you got this. Okay, and when things don't make sense, you just drop to your knees and and get into that position of gratefulness and just being in the moment, I think. Because I think with the survival mode, I don't think you're really planning ahead. You're just with survival mode, you're like, okay, I just got to get through this second, or um, you're not even really. Uh, in a way, you are thinking about tomorrow, but in the survival mode, you don't know night from day, day from night, because you're just like you're
Right.
just blind. Yeah, yeah, just charging through. So
Right.
yeah, it's definitely being aware, definitely
Mhm.
aware. And for me, what worked for me to break that survival mode is experiencing what rest is and learning to put my trust in God and definitely being grateful no matter the circumstances.
Yeah. And can we pause for the cause? Because your shirt, Miss Ma'am, is
Okay.
a walking billboard. I said,
Yes.
keep me different, God. I don't mind being left out.
Amen. Amen.
I just had to pause for that because I love it when people are wearing statement pieces, because it truly speaks to who they are and what they want to
Yeah.
represent.
Yeah.
But the fact that you came on this here pod and you had a little statement, what does that
Okay.
mean to you? Because I am loving that shirt.
Girl, this speaks 1,000. This is 100 right here, okay?
Uh-huh.
Um I remember when I first purchased the shirt, the season I was in, and I'm
Mm,
kind of finding myself in that season again,
yeah.
where there's a dying of the flesh that happens, right?
Mm,
And where God is separating you, right? And so when he separates you, where he's taking you everybody can't go, um, and when you give up the world, you and you take up your cross, you're gonna stand out where people think you acting brand new, like who Jessica thinks she is, or I'm calling Jessica to go out to the club. She don't want to go no more. Not everybody's gonna understand it.
right.
And I remember when after like after I got baptized around that time, this is just back in I think October, November. So it's pretty recent. And I realized like I can't play both sides. I don't want to be lukewarm. And
Mm,
so God definitely where I still tried. I tried. I'm like, maybe I could go out here and there. And so I was going to the places where I used to, and I started feeling uncomfortable. And
mm,
I'm very thankful for that. And so
mhm.
I did it because what was that thing called FOMO, the fear of missing out.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like right now I'm not on social media, and social media plays such a heavy influence in that nowadays, where you trying to keep up with the Joneses, or you X, Y, and Z's going out to this country, or they're going out and doing this, and so you don't want to be left out. You still want to be included with your friends, but it's a balance. Like if you go out, you going out to the club, God is not there, right? And then you're gonna feel a conviction eventually, now or
Mhm.
later. And so I had to for a long time I wrestled with the fear of being left out. And so once I realized, and everyone who's called, you're different. God sets you aside.
Mhm.
You're
Mhm.
handpicked from the pile, right? And so
Mhm.
and so I was like, you know what, God, if this is what I gotta let go to get closer to you, so be it. Burn what you need to burn, okay? Shake what you need to shake. I I am choosing God. I am choosing God. And so I encourage people, if like right now with social media, I've been learning to like I used to always be on social media scrolling, and um now it's gotten better. When people
Mhm.
invite me places, I used to feel like I had to explain myself as to why not I can't go. Now I just tell them no, sorry I can't go, and eventually they end up figuring it out. They figure it out. Um, but definitely, I went through a season of separation and a season of where it was just me and Christ, right? It was me and my Bible. I was literally just the only time I was stepping outside in like a group, it was whether going to a church activity or going to church itself or going to work. But I don't. There is what's that word when isolation. Yeah, it was a season of
Mhm.
isolation, and
Mhm.
I did have friends. They worried. They're like, Jessica, be careful with isolation. But I had to break it down. I'm like, I'm not alone, right? I'm in a place where I have comfort, right? I'm uncomfortable when I'm out there doing worldly things. But here,
Mhm.
when I am in my own peace, when I'm in my own space, and I'm meditating on the word of God, I am okay. I am okay. And so
Yeah.
I thank God for that separation. I thank God for that, for the seasons of isolation, because
Mhm.
again, it's needed. It has to be done. And I think until every Christian goes through a season of isolation, how do how do you call yourself Christian? Like the other day I was thinking how Jesus never cried. Or correct me if I'm wrong. I'm still reading the Bible, friend. So, and if he cried, it wasn't like when was it? He went where he left. He left the 12 disciples and he went by himself. Tell me the
Mhm.
story. How
I mean, there's several times
There's
where he
several times.
definitely he. So like I was watching one of these podcasts with Jackie Hill Perry, and
Okay.
she talked about how the three M's that come with like boundaries. She was saying how, and she was quoting an author, but I don't remember the book. But she was like, one of the M's is ministry.
Okay.
Ministry is open to everybody. Like people knew who Jesus was based off of his ministry. And then there was what was it? Ministry, and then there was misery. And misery was a part where he was like, mm-mm. There's only like three people who really saw Jesus in a very vulnerable state. Three of
Wow.
his disciples. Like he had 12 and he had other followers, and then he had his mom and everyone that was with him. But there was only three that he chose that was like, yeah, you can see me in my weaker moments, and he trusted those three.
Yeah.
So it's like not everyone can see your vulnerable side, right? Is the basis of is the basis of what he was being said, because a lot of people assume that Jesus was a strong, because he's God's son, so who can really, what does he have to cry about? But like that's the
Yeah.
beauty of who Jesus was. It was, the Bible talks about how he was created to feel what we feel, yet he was without sin. So it's like we can't say, oh God, you don't know what I'm going through. It's like Jesus knew. The
For
same
real.
human experiences that we have is the same human experiences that Jesus had. He just knew how to do it without sinning, you know what I mean? So
Exactly.
I mean, the shortest scripture in the Bible does say Jesus wept. And it was because his friend Lazarus had died, and that hurt him, you know. But like there's theories out there that say, like, was he crying just because Lazarus died, or was he crying because of the doubt that people had in him?
Ooh.
Like he's like, I'm coming, I'm not coming now, but I'm coming.
Right.
And like Lazarus is sleeping, he's not dead. And they're like, what do you mean? So like a lot of people were blaming, or the Lazarus's sisters blamed him, like if you were here he wouldn't have died.
Yes.
And so a lot of people are like, was he crying just because of the death, or because people were questioning him? But he cried, but it wasn't like one of those out and open type things. It was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I can't remember what the other M was. It was like misery, ministry. I'll figure it out.
Yes. Yes. We'll drop them in the chat.
Right, drop it in the chat at some point. But yeah,
Right.
he did. But I love what you're saying, because a lot of people don't understand the journey that it takes
Right.
to separate self from the world, as they say, and
Mhm.
walk into this newness. And I've had pastors on and ministers on and people who have been in the faith for a while. But I was like, because I was watching the changes in your posts. I said,
Yeah.
well,
Okay.
you're doing a little something different now. Because like you was
We're
talking about
different.
Jesus and you was talking about the Lord. I said, Jess, if you do not talk about him, Jesus is my best friend. And I'm
Okay.
like, you better talk about him. You
Talk
better
about it.
introduce the world to
Yes,
him, because this is what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be light
exactly.
in the world and salt
Amen.
in the earth. And so when I saw that, I was like, see, this is a champion, right? Champions know how to, again, make the sacrifices, and they know how to, you have to separate yourself while everyone's out
Right.
there partying and, like you were saying, eating whatever they want to and doing whatever they want. Like a champion knows, like, I can't be that because I have a
Right.
goal and I have something in mind. But another part of a champion is like, I know how to take L's, but I know how to
Right.
keep going. I know how to feel the pain, but keep going. Because
Yes.
listen, I was stubborn. You hear me?
Yeah.
I sprained my ankle my junior year in volleyball. In between track and volleyball was like 3 months.
Yeah.
I was supposed to stay off of that ankle for at least 4.
Wow.
Listen here, as soon as that cast came off, I said, now I got to get ready for track because this is my junior year. I'm about to enter into my senior. Like these numbers that I'm about to put up, they
Right.
matter. Girl,
Right.
to this day, my ankle doing one of these, like she
Oh
limp.
wow.
she she's not fully there, but it's because I had that heart to keep going. I was like, I don't care what
Right.
pain I'm experiencing. I don't care if I'm uncomfortable. Like, give me some brace, give me some ice, wrap this bad boy, and I gotta go because my
Right.
goal was to be better than I was last year. And I was like, I don't have time for this whole recuperating and like physical therapy, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I
Icing
say
it.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. When I say I was throwing, now mind you, for those who don't know what the shot put is, that thing requires all of your body. Like it's not just all arms and it's not
Right.
all legs. Like you have to be in unison from top down. And
Exactly.
the ankle that I need to push off of to get my power from is the ankle that's doing one of these right now.
Oh wow.
And because like you have to like snap. That's what
Yeah.
coach used to say, is like snap that leg under you.
Yeah. Yes. Oh goodness. Listen, my knees. I think it's from the constant landing on the
Yes.
knees, and yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
girl.
she was better at it than me, clearly, because she threw. What was your furthest? What is your record, Miss Ma'am? Your PR is
Um, I wanna say, I think it's like 42 feet and 2 inches, something like that. Yeah,
listen. I was
indoor.
really proud of my 40 footer. I was really proud, and I held that down. I said, "Look at me breaking records." It ain't even last the whole year
Oh
before
man,
this
but
one
you
came
still
in.
top five, baby. You know,
I mean,
okay.
yeah. But I really wanted that top spot. But you know what? It's okay because I don't mind sharing it with you. You can have
Okay.
it. It did kind of hurt my feelings a little bit because
Really.
I had that top spot for like 2 days. Um, but nonetheless, it's like the amount of pain that champions endure. But it's like
Right.
I'm okay with this pain because I know there's a goal, there's a prize that
Yeah.
I'm trying to achieve. And that is the basis of this conversation is like, how do you take that frame of mind and apply it to life, not just life in general, but also like your walk with God? Like, how do you take that I'm if it hurts, I'm gonna do it. If I gotta be separated, if I have to be in isolation for periods of time, like how do you find yourself being okay with all of these changes and all of these sacrifices? Like, what are you aiming for? What is the prize for you, Miss Ma'am?
For me, the ultimate prize is the well done. Okay, well done by the big man.
Yeah.
But yes, yes. But definitely, it's the knowing part. And that's why I love when people give their testimonies. It's
Mhm.
always that reminder, like, okay, if God could do it for her, if God could do it for him, He could do it for me too.
Yeah.
And so that's why I get nervous or I trip up every now and again giving my testimony, but I'm reminded how important it is to give a testimony. I remember I went through it. This was like a long time ago. Before I came to Christ, I would go to church and I wasn't seeing people testifying, This
Mhm.
was in my younger days, like 18, 19 years old, and I felt like an outcast. I was like, all right, these people don't look like me. And this was before it was cool to have dreads. I went to Haitian church, and I would walk in and they'll look at me like I was Satan himself. And
Mm.
yeah, yeah. And so for a long time, I stayed out of the church, and because I felt like I didn't belong there, I felt like there was nobody there that looked like me. And so what keeps me going is I'm like, okay, I don't want to look like what people think a Christian looks like, or like I'm supposed to have a skirt all the way down to my ankles, or my head should be covered. I shouldn't wear earrings or fake nails or lashes or anything like that, right? What's really matters is what's on your heart. It's what's in your heart, and for sure. So definitely when I I I'm human, right? I have my times where I feel the whole world is against me. But what
Mm.
keeps me going is I remember the word of God, and that's what stands, right? It is written, okay? So it is
Mm.
done. So whatever I am going through, whatever I am feeling, I know it's all temporary. Then
Yeah.
and there's an ultimate goal. And that ultimate goal is that well done. The ultimate goal is whether it's to win souls for Christ, and to do what God has called us to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And
Yeah.
that well done, for those of you who don't know, there's a time where we're all gonna get to heaven and we're gonna have this conversation with the Lord, and that's when he makes his decision. Like, what is he going to say when you get there? You're going to hear, well done, enter in, you made it, here you go, or not. And every sacrifice, everything we do down here, it matters.
Right.
For the longest time, when that whole like YOLO thing came out, I was like, well, in theory, I see what y'all are trying to say. Take advantage of the time. Do what makes you happy. I get it. But it's like you don't only live once, because there is something called the afterlife. Like,
Right.
I'm trying to make sure that I get to God, and
Yeah.
he not look at me like, Jermaine, you tried.
I did
Um,
not know you. Yeah.
right. Depart from me, because I didn't know you. Like, you really were trying to do things in my name, but I don't know you. Um, and that's a scary thought.
It
Like,
is.
to be down here and do all the things, and then he'd be like,
Well,
sorry.
yes, yes, that definitely holds you accountable. That's a fear right there, and I
Mhm.
guess that's a good fear, right?
Yeah.
The fear of God. Yeah, for sure.
But the other thing you talked about, and something I will talk about till I'm blue in the face,
Yeah.
because obviously the word that people have used to describe me is eccentric, right?
Yeah.
I am a minister, but
Okay.
looking at me, people wouldn't know that, because I do have the nails, the lashes, the locks.
Mhm.
Hello, locking.
That's a sign.
I
Yeah,
wear big hats and big colors, and I wear
I
makeup.
love
I
it.
got red
Yeah.
lips, and they're just like, if God was worried about the outer appearance only, Jermaine wouldn't make it.
Okay.
He'd sit me down and be like, clean that up. But the
Right.
fact is that he's more concerned about the hearts and the souls of people, not what they look like.
Right.
Like, it's just out here. Like, yes, at some point we do get a little bit more modest, of course, but
Right.
it's like, if souls are dying and all you're worried about is how long my dress is and how much skin I'm showing, that's a problem. Let's talk
Exactly.
about that. Like, let's get the person in, because I believe everyone in heaven is going to look the same. They're not going to be the same color, same height, same body type. Like, it doesn't matter. It's
Right.
like there's a soul and a heart inside of this pod we call a body with
Hmm.
flesh. And it's like, that's the important part. And we have to focus on reaching the heart and the souls of people. And it's
Right.
like, sure, we all looked rough. Okay. I'm pretty sure when Jesus found most of us, we weren't all nice and saved and holy, and like
Okay.
everything was covered. Some of us were probably doing something real ratchet and real nasty when
Yeah.
he,
Right.
when he was calling your name. And so, we have to remember that, like, there's something bigger than what we look like.
Exactly.
God is concerned about the person. And that goes into a whole other category of like lifestyles. It's like, come on. Like at the end of the day, people are people.
Right.
Every person has a heart, every person has a mind, every person has a soul. That's what we ought to be concerned about. And you know, when you decide to walk with God, you see that earlier. Like when you first, like when you're a fresh Christian, you're like, oh my God, I love this, and we do all the great things. It's
Yeah.
when we've been here for a while that we're just like, you get kind of stale, you get kind of like, and so like
Yeah.
we have to keep it fresh, and
Yeah.
that's another reason why I wanted to have you on, is because you're speaking to like that fresh part of what it means to start walking with God and being like,
Yeah.
I choose you. I choose this life,
Yeah.
and I choose it even when I'm getting those phone calls, whether it be late night, early days, whatever it is, where it's like, yo, remember we used to do this, like you down, and like again, the discipline you build from
Right.
other places, how you're able to say no, right?
Exactly.
You're able to be like, I once was, because that happens in the Bible. I once was this. Then God came, and now I'm this. And we don't do
Amen.
the same things.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Talk about it.
Like there has to be a difference. But because the series is called Join the Fight. Is there a fight that you are in right now, whether it be mental, emotional, whether it be spiritual, physical, or a combination of all four? Like, what is the fight that Jessica finds herself in?
The fights. Well, more recently, let's see. To be honest, every day. Every day, the enemy is at work. So, um, I think right now I am in a fight with, I would say, consecration. Um, where it gets easier as the days go on and remaining consecrated, but every now and again, I don't want to say I trip up, but I am faced with the obstacle, and whether it's like, again, trying to, hmm, yes, I am. I would consider myself. I consider myself. I'm a recycled believer, right? I was in the church, left the church, came back, um, but definitely trying um, to walk in faith, right, and walk the walk with Christ, and still be able to, I don't want to say be cool, but still be able to be relatable. Because I want people to, for me, when I was looking, I remember I was in a season where I was looking for Christ, and I couldn't find him in anyone around me. And even as far away I was, how lost I was, people were still coming to me. They said the most experience they ever experienced with God was through me, and I was like, wow. With that, it was definitely, it's a call, and it's heavy, right? And where you know that it's not just it's not about you, right? It's bigger than us, right? The call, the assignment, right? And so, it's the consecration part, where um trying to continue to walk with Christ, and I want to be able to be relatable and to fit in, and um but that is of the world, right? So it's the separation of the two, where, okay, yes, I am Jessica, and how do I say this? It's God is doing a new thing in me, right? And so I have to let go of who I used to be, and the letting go part. That, I guess there is parts where, when you're rediscovering yourself, you're like, okay, so I used to like this, I don't like this no more. And then you're facing situations where you constantly have to remind yourself, where, okay, Jessica, that is of the world. Um, and so even things like, I have to, like with my radio, or every now and again, a song I used to like from a long time ago comes on, and I find myself getting ready to sing it like in the gym, and I said, wait a minute, the one of the most greatest thing I heard was like, Someone said every time you start singing like a worldly song, like that R&B song, that hip hop song, you're literally nailing Jesus to the cross again. And ever since I heard that, I was like, all right, yeah, that's it for me. I can't Gemini 4-5 no more, right? And
Yeah.
so those are the battles I face.
Mhm.
In like situations, if it's like a coworker want to pull me to the side and she want to gossip about Shaniqua and Latoya, and having to tell her like I can't do that, how do you say it nicely and tell her like,
Mhm.
hey sis, now is not the time, not the place. Or I'm I'm learning to just like gently and be polite with people with certain situations like that. And it's definitely the transformation part is,
Mhm.
yeah, that's the battle I'm in.
Phew, that's a whole fight. Because listen,
Yeah.
just because we're changed doesn't mean the people around us know we're changed. And so they will treat us just like we were a few months ago or a few
Yeah.
years ago. Because to them, we look the same on the outside. It's like, that's just chess. Like,
Right.
come on, like she about that. Like, let's
Yeah.
go. And it's like, listen, I'm trying to do life differently.
Yes.
Please respect my boundaries. But unfortunately, we are with people who are either not respecting of our boundaries or just toxic enough to not care. And
Right.
so we have to, that's a battle within itself for sure, is that you have to maintain your own boundaries. You have to maintain your own standards
Right.
because it's not always going to be respected, especially because they don't know what this transformation looks like. They don't know why
Exactly.
we often have to pull back and say, like, I know I was doing crazy, but no. And it's that constant, like they think it's like a pulling with their like our relationships with them. It's like, listen here, this is
Right.
all eternal stuff. That's what
Yes.
that's what this back and forth is about. Cause like, yeah,
Right.
it feel good and it's nice, but then it's like, oh, it's not what we're doing anymore. So then you have to like pull back, and it's like that constant dance because unfortunately, no matter how spiritually strong we are, we live in these bodies, and
Right.
these bodies want what they want, right? Whether it
Right.
be substances, whether it be relations,
Right.
regardless of what it is, it wants what it wants. And we have to find that discipline, that strength, whatever it is, to stay in the fight, so to speak. But you did mention having coworkers, but
Right.
someone is self-employed.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Tell us more. Tell us more. What
Yeah,
are we doing?
so I have my own home care business. I started it right. This is like towards the end of the pandemic.
Mhm.
I was very thankful and blessed to have an amazing job working with the state during the state of Massachusetts during the pandemic. I worked with the Board of Health, and we would just like go into different facilities that were like hit hard with COVID, and we were just filling in where, because not only patients were dying, but there was staff in the medical field who were also dropping like flies and getting contacted with COVID. And once you get contacted with COVID, you couldn't work. And
Yeah.
so that's when they would call us and we would come in, and we were all around Massachusetts. So it was like traveling nursing, but within Massachusetts.
Mhm.
So I was making great money, and so you can't once you touch a certain amount of money, you can't go back. You can't go back to that regular 9 to 5. And
Right.
so I think a lot of people during the pandemic where they just had a lot of businesses came out. Thank you, Joyce. A lot of people um, during the pandemic, they got on their grind and created all these businesses and stuff. So I saw, I was like, I've been doing this for so long, I could work for myself. And I was very thankful and blessed to meet other women who were also doing the same, and they walked me through the process on how to get the LLC, and how to like find different contracts and clients.
Mhm.
And I think that's sometimes the hard part is finding the clients. But it's once your foot is in the door, it's like a takeoff from there.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm thankful for that. So what I do is I just work for myself. I have clients, whether I'll go to their home and provide care, or I go to different facilities, and I'm just basically cutting out the middleman. Yep, and yeah, doing what I do, but just for myself.
Yes, ma'am, because you got to do
Yes,
it.
you
And
gotta do
ironically,
it.
I have the same story. Like I was,
Oh wow.
I mean, I wasn't working for the state,
Yeah.
doing therapy and stuff, and like the agency that I was at, she unfortunately had to close because of the pandemic. And then she's like, "Well, that's okay, Jermaine, because you can start your own thing." I said, "I'm sorry, what? You want me to do what?" And
Right.
she's like, "Yeah, you can do it." So when she's giving me like, get an EIN, to file as an LLC, do this and do this, and I said, "Miss Ma'am, I think you forgot who you're talking to."
Yeah.
Again, Jermaine knows two things: therapy and Jesus. When it comes to business and finances, what is that? I don't know. And like you were saying, by the grace of God, it's just like it just happened.
Right.
And it continues, and he'll send the right people. And
Yeah.
like marketing, I don't know what to do with that, but he sends the people because you're diligent in the work. And it's just amazing how things, we don't know how it's lining up, but God and his sovereignty is just lining up so much. And you're just like, okay, I see what you're doing.
Right. Right. You see what you doing, God?
This is
Go
great.
ahead.
And
Yes.
this is, oh, thanks, Aunt Joyce. um there's a beauty in, you mentioned it throughout the episode, there's a beauty in learning how to let go.
Right.
And a lot, maybe not y'all, Jermaine, um something that she struggles with is, I can let go, but I'm gonna stare at it, and I'm gonna be
Yeah.
like, okay, but is it moving? Like, if it's not moving, can I push it? Can I do a little something, something? And that's really hard.
Yeah.
But the amount of faith and trust and discipline that it takes to just be like, okay, I'm just gonna let it go and go do something over here while God does his thing. That is so hard.
Right.
People underestimate what that looks like.
Right.
It's like, that's why the Bible is often talking about like having that childlike mentality, not being
Mhm.
immature. But when you're a kid, you're not worried about what your parents are doing. You're not worried about like,
Exactly.
so who's going to put food in this fridge that then
Right.
gets put on my table, and who's paying for the lights? They don't care. All
Right.
they know is like all their needs are being met. They don't know
Exactly.
the sacrifices that their parents are doing, and they're not really asking because they just know what's going to happen. And
Right.
that's really hard when you become an adult, when you're learning how to be independent, but then also like, God, I don't know what this is, and I'm uncomfortable, but
Yeah.
I trust that you're going to do something with it. So, my encouragement to you, Miss Ma'am, keep
Mhm.
that. Don't lose that. Remember it as often as you can, because let me tell you, as you know, the enemy, he tries and he
Right.
keeps coming. And the more you advance and the harder he comes. But we remember and we are reminded that greater is he that is in me,
Amen.
that is in
Yes.
the world. And because you have God on your side, things can come, people can come, enemies will come. It's going to happen, but you are not going to be defeated. Even if they get like a win, they won't they won't be able to take you down because they're not the one who put you there, right? God is the one that put you there. And it's going to be one of those sometimes you're probably going to look back and be like, why did I do this? Now, we love God, we do, but like we have that dramatic pause and it's like, what is
Yeah.
this? Did I really sign up for this? Like, okay, all right,
Right.
here we go.
Right.
But encouragement is to stay in the fight, and everything that you're working towards, there's levels to this thing, and you're going to be able to do more than what you even envisioned yourself doing. And so it's really about staying consistent, because that is an underestimated skill, consistency. Because God is like, listen, I know you're gonna mess up, and I know you're gonna do some things that aren't gonna be nice, and you might think I hate you, but I don't. But if you're consistently trying, you're consistently showing up, and you're consistently doing the work, he's like, I can reward that. Because what that shows him is like, no matter what she's up against, or for those who are watching, whatever he is up against, he still chooses, or she still chooses to get up and keep going. Because she has trust in me, or they have trust in me that I'm going to perform. And that's really a beautiful piece to hold on to. But nonetheless, believe it or not, we have reached our hour mark.
Oh wow. Oh no, this is
And you know,
good.
you think, listen, I have said this to everyone. If you want to come back, you let me know, and we will make it happen. Because
Yes.
this is literally just a platform that, God has given me to help other people either use this to elevate self, or just to get their foot in the water. Because we know gonna come up
Okay.
with their own pod, and I'm like,
It's on the way.
because
Yes,
we have to
yes.
root for each other, from one
Sure.
Black queen to another. Like, I
Amen.
support it. We are not
Amen.
enemies. I am not
No.
threatened by your success. I sure hope you're not threatened by mine, because we can occupy your space, and I can occupy mine, and we can do this together.
Amen. He sent them out in two, right?
Right.
Okay, come on.
We appreciate you so much. So, like I say at the end of all of the episodes, if there was one thing or a few things you want to leave with the folks who are watching this either live or on replay, what do you want them to, what's your take home message? What do you want for them to
take
hear?
home? I definitely want to just remind people that if he could do it for me, I know it's like that classic saying, but it's definitely a thing. Like, even though I didn't share a lot of the trials and tribulations I went through, but definitely this time 5 years ago, I was sitting in a jail cell in the state of New Hampshire. I was looking at 10 years in a state prison, but he had better plans for me, and I am thankful and blessed to be able to be sitting here on your podcast. And so I want to remind people, whatever you're facing, whatever your circumstances may look like, that it is just temporary. It is just temporary. It was in that time when I was incarcerated is when God came and spoke to me. It was in that season. So I want to remind people that what you're going through, whatever it is, the attack, that right there, it's God working, and the enemy knows that he's doing something in that season. I had to go through that season of incarceration so I can be here today. It is part of my testimony. Yes, it is part of my testimony, and I honestly feel like if I did not go through that test, I wouldn't be able to testify today. So I thank God for that. And I want to remind you, as long as you have air in your lungs, the Lord is not done with you yet. He is not done with you yet. So I thank God He's doing a new thing in me. He's doing a new thing in you, sis. And He's doing a new thing in whoever is watching this. So definitely it's stay consecrated, stay in that discipline, and get in the word. There's nothing that the enemy wants to do more than to fill us with doubt and fear, right? And that right there, you could lose. You could get off your pivot. But once you get in the word of God and you trust in His promises, man. Okay, it's only up from there. It's only up from there.
Yes, ma'am. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are like, Jermaine, I thought this was a mental health podcast. You talked about Jesus the whole time. First of all, we know a fighting chance and Jermaine Harrison. We about that. We love Jesus and therapy. Both can exist at the same time. And quite frankly, Jesus is good for our mental health. Okay. Because as Jessica was saying, and as other people who have been on here, and I'm always saying, there's a level of, there's like a certain capacity that we can as humans reach. There's only so much we can do. But when we add God to the mix, that capacity gets heightened, and it kind of like opens us to new levels of operating and working through failures and working through traumas and working through depressions and anxieties, like the transformation that you have been talking about this whole time. Like, who else can say, yeah, I was locked up, I was facing 25 years and I only had to serve 3.5? Like, who does that? Like, there's so many, like you were
Yes.
saying, there's so many tests that we endure.
Right.
And it's like, yes, that's because God is working out a testimony in you. And listen, I could never be locked up. That is not my thing.
Yeah.
I used to make this joke, like, I'm too cute for jail, and I'm also like, I'm not fighting for my virginity in jail. Like, I'm not. Like, it's a lot. And I thank God that He is able to keep you from falling, but also if you do fall, He's able to pick you up. And like, the goodness of God is really the change, like, not just the change, but he's the game changer of a lot of our situations. Because I can't, as a clinician, I am not effective on my own. Can I do great things by myself? Sure. But will I? No. Because I know that it is God who makes me effective. It is God who allows me to reach people in the ways that I can and in the capacities that I can. So I don't try to operate anything that I'm doing without Him, because He takes what I can do in the little bit that I can do, and He just like magnifies that. So,
yes,
thank you again. Like Aunt Joy said, thank you for sharing your testimony. It is so beautiful, and you're so beautiful, and I appreciate all that you are, all that you do. I really hope that you continue to flourish, not just as an entrepreneur, but as a person, because there's a lot of work for all of us to do, quite frankly. And we have to stay in the fight. But speaking of fights, next week we will be back. I don't know how many more episodes I have of this, because Jermaine does need to go on a sabbatical herself. Jermaine does a lot. But next week I will be bringing on Courtney. Courtney is someone that I met while being out here in New Hampshire. She is an advocate for domestic violence. She has her own story, and she has taken her pain and things that she has gone through, and she is now advocating on high levels, not just like I feel like I'm doing micro stuff just by having conversations, but she's hitting the pavement. And so we're going to have her on next week at 7. So you guys, I hope that you took something from this. I hope that you're sharing these conversations and that you can go back, because we are on Facebook and we are on YouTube, and now, praise the Lord, we are also on Instagram, because that wasn't a thing before, and now it's a thing. So you can check us out here, wherever you're watching this, and just go back. I've had a lot of stories being shared this series, but other series. It's just powerful. So thank you guys for coming in. Thank you guys for being faithful. Aunt Joyce, my dad, I know my aunt's on here watching. Let's see, Little Bit was in here. Donita is her name. But anyway, thank you guys. Jess, girl, I'm so proud of you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. I prayed for this. I am so thankful. I remember wanting to be on a podcast and just to be able to share my testimony. So I thank you for giving me that space and the opportunity. And God is so intentional, and I'm just so thankful and blessed. And I thank God for you.
Well, you're welcome. I thank God for you. You did amazing, sis.
Thank you.
Claps all around, hearts in the chat, claps in the chat. Nonetheless, I appreciate you guys. I will see you next week. You guys have a blessed week. Just remember what Jessica said, that He's doing a new thing and He is not done with you. So stay in the fight, join the fight, and you guys will be all right. Ooh, that rhymed. Period. Bars. Anyway. Good night, guys.